A stranger lies dead in Arlington Grange. There are 6 suspects, but which one is the killer? Could it be Mrs. Peacock, lady of the manor and beautiful society hostess? Perhaps Colonel Mustard, military hero and intimate family friend? Is Reverend Green a saint or sinner? Is it Professor Plum, a man with a degree of suspicion? Miss Scarlet, Mrs. Peacock's glamorous stepdaughter? Or Mrs. White, loyal housekeeper and devoted confidant? Your host for Cluedo, Chris Tarrant.
Hello there, welcome to a brand new Cluedo. For the next 6 weeks, I'll be inviting you to sit back and try and solve the mystery of the murders at Arlington Grange. See if your wits are sharper and faster than tonight's celebrity guest detectives. They are, from Coronation Street, Sally Whittaker, and from You Bet, Matthew Kelly. And battling against them, TV presenter Michael Strachan and actor John McCallum. Matthew always looks very excited.
I'm very excited indeed.
A lot of whispering going, a lot of writing on bits of paper. Right, well, now I can tell you once again it's a test of deduction and eventually, hopefully, elimination. Now, we want to know where it was done, we want to know what it was done with, and we want to know who done it. Now, I can tell you it was done with one of 6 objects. The murder weapon was one of these, but which one? Was it the stake hammer? Was it the ebony ruler? Was it the sharpening steel? Was it the rat poison, the scarf? Or was it the gun? One of those was the murder weapon, and the murder was committed in one of these rooms. But again, which one? Was it the kitchen? Was it done in the study? The dining room? The drawing room? The billiard room? Or was it done in the library? Matthew's looking very blank. It was one of those 6 rooms. Now, first of all, the evidence. Financial uncertainty has caused Mrs. Peacock to call in Simon Charles, an investment broker. And on the first day at the Grange, he meets Miss Scarlet out on horseback.
What's the matter, my dear? Don't you have the necessary cash?
Cash? The company's folded, and you expect me to pay?
Well, you guaranteed its debts. I made it clear.
And you? What did you have to pay? You got out, didn't you? You took a cut of our money.
Business, my dear.
Unwelcome guests, eh? Mrs. White was complaining about rats, so I thought I'd sort them out.
Got them with a dog, did you?
Good God, no. Some very efficient powder.
Oh, Professor, please! God, I hope there aren't any more of those rats around. I didn't test those filthy things in the cellar. When was that? Oh, Jonathan, I was just wondering, how is the memorial window to my late husband coming along?
Well, to tell you the truth, Mrs. Peacock, I had a call from the glaziers there, and then today there's been a delay.
A delay? But I gave you the money nearly 3 months ago. What on earth could be holding them up?
Well, these things do take time, my dear Mrs. Peacock. I'll phone them again.
Not quite sure about that. Not really some rats in the cellar. Thank you, Mrs. White.
Will Mr. Charles be staying for dinner, ma'am? Nobody said.
Yes, and for breakfast. He'll be going to the city directly in the morning.
Only, I'd like a word with him if I could.
I've got a small fortune to invest, Mrs. White. Dabbling in the city, eh?
My financial affairs are my own affairs, sir, if you don't mind.
You never stop talking shop. Got to dear Mrs. Peacock's home a weekend guest. He talks nothing but money. It's so vulgar.
I never knew you shy to talk about money.
Not at the dinner table, not while playing bridge. Did you invest?
No. We were going to do some business together. A new line of computer software, but we couldn't reach an agreement. And from what I hear, I had a narrow escape. You didn't invest with him, did you?
Little speculative venture, nothing more.
Afternoon.
Stop. You wash your hands before you handle those. You've been putting more of that stuff about, remember. You ought to know better, sir. This Mr. Charles, sir, is he all right? You know, straight.
He seems to be making a lot of people very edgy. Does he come to the Grange often?
Oh, bless you, no, sir. 2 or 3 times in the last month, but only for dinner, you know. He talks about nothing but business. Mind you, I've learnt things. You learn a lot waiting at table.
I presume there's no need to count it.
I nearly horsewhipped him today.
Any good reason why you didn't?
He's making fools of us all. That was a great deal of money you gave him.
A small debt, that's all. Never get involved in commerce, my dear.
But I got involved. Fortunately, there was a way out for me.
Well, they're all I have, Simon.
You signed for the best part of $500,000. He's a paste! If you were younger, I might have been willing to make you an offer. But as it is, you don't have very much worth taking, do you? The house, of course.
You couldn't do that to me.
Elizabeth, you're not a child. You signed the contract, and now you'll have to face the consequences. I'll tell you what. There is a way out. Another little scheme. And of course, you will have to put the house up.
And if I refuse?
Oh, I don't think the good colonel would consider his future with a jailbird, do you?
All of it? You can't be serious. The end of trading yesterday? Wiped out. I see.
You should stick to the GGs. Safer, perhaps.
You gave me that advice and now I'm ruined. Ruined.
Don't you threaten me, Reverend. You wouldn't like dear Mrs. Peacock to know that her husband's memorial window has been frittered away on reckless gambles on the stock market.
I've made your favourite tonight, Curls. A nice ossobuco.
Thank you, Mrs. White.
I know you would like. Oh, Miss Scarlett, you do look nice this evening.
Thank you.
Oh, Mrs. Peacock, Reverend Green phoned to say he'd be a little late.
Thank you, Mrs. White.
Mr. Charles, I wonder, could I have a little word with you? I'd like your advice.
Yes, of course. Later. It is. Gentlemen, I know that to discuss money at these delightful weekends is the height of vulgarity, but I also know that you've been rather disappointed over the last few days. So I feel that I really must give you the opportunity to make good any losses you may have incurred. I know some of you may even feel cheated. But when you hear what our delightful hostess is willing to risk, I know you'll agree that what I have in mind is entirely foolproof. My dear, please.
I have decided to put up Arlington Grange to raise the necessary money. Simon assures me that his risk is foolproof. I have already signed the contract.
How dare you? How dare you? This is our home. Why, you...
Don't. Come along.
Oh, well. No doubt she'll calm down later. Now, for those of you who are still interested, we're moving into computers. I have a scheme that will make all software compatible, wherever you go in the world, on whatever machine.
What? That's my idea. I wrote that program. You've stolen it.
Well, you registered it, old boy. Patented it.
Well,
you have no leg to stand on then.
You scheming, conniving...
I should calm down, old boy, and give yourself a heart attack. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some unfinished business to attend to.
Mr. Charles! Mr. Charles is dead! Mr. Charles is dead!
So, Simon Charles is dead. Now, you've seen the evidence so far, you've seen the 6 suspects, but which one had the strongest motive for murder? She stood to lose the Grange. Did he lose his life at the hands of Mrs. Peacock? He'd asked for her virtue and her cash, so did Miss Scarlet finally pay him off? Was it Mrs. White who invested in murder? Or did the need to hide a dark deed turn the Reverend Green into a killer? Did a stolen invention give Professor Plum a blueprint for murder? Or was blackmail the motive for Colonel Mustard? Our 6 suspects. So we've seen 6 suspects, 6 weapons, and 6 rooms. Now you can start to interrogate the suspects. You can interrogate each suspect in turn. I should tell you that only the murderer can tell lies. Everybody else, the other innocent 5, must tell the truth, okay?
Yes, we'd like to go for Mrs. White straight away. Go for the jugular. Go on, Sally.
Mrs. White, what was he speculating for you?
Well, he was letting everybody else have a go, wasn't he? And Mrs. Peacock was prepared to put her house up, so I thought, well, it must be a safe thing. So I thought, well, it might be worth just a little flutter, you know, for a little nest.
So did you bung all your bits in?
That's all you get, Matthew. That's all you get so far. Right, okay. John and Michaela.
All your bits in. Right, our first question is to Reverend Green.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, you know, you were saying that you had some sort of deal with the stockbroker. How much money did you lose? How much money did he tell you to put into the stocks or whatever you put it into?
Oh, that.
Evade the question,
Have I got to answer that?
Yes, you have.
Well, it was about £20,000.
How much?
12 or 20?
20,000.
Jonathan, where did you get that sort of money? Jonathan?
Sorry.
Where did you get that sort of money?
I thought I was asked the questions by these people.
Right, Sally Matthew.
This is great. I love it.
Don't worry, you'll soon spoil that.
Okay.
Come on, who's next?
Professor Plum, did you leave the poison on the kitchen table? Is that where you left it after you...
No, good Lord, no. Good Lord, no. No. It always goes under the kitchen sink. That's where Mrs. White keep it, and I put it back there.
So it's hers, not yours?
Oh, yes, it's regularly there.
So
But the reason I called it special is that I keep a little H2SO4, and I pop that in there with it. I usually put a few drops in to give it a bit of a kick.
Okay. Right. Michaela, John.
So I'll go with it. Right, Colonel Mustard, I'd like to ask you, what was this debt that you had to pay back to Simon Charles?
Just a debt.
Well, what was it?
Do I have to elaborate?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
This is very embarrassing. I was involved in some insider dealings on the stock market, and I made quite a packet. Simon Charles knew about this. He was blackmailing me.
Okay. Matthew, Sally.
Oh, right. Yeah, Mrs. Peacock. Okay. I think she could probably have whipped him to death with her earrings, actually. Probably.
Ask a question, Matthew.
So, did everyone know you always kept the gun in the locked desk drawer?
What makes you think it was locked?
Only asking.
The desk drawer is not locked. Certainly my stepdaughter, Vivian, certainly knew. Mrs. White certainly knew. I'm not sure about the gentleman in the house. Mike might have known, but I'm not certain.
Michaela or John?
Miss Scarlet. Where did you go after being made to leave the drawing room?
Well, I was very upset, and Mike brought me upstairs to my room to try and calm me down away from him. Basically, we went upstairs to my room.
Right. So we've interrogated 6 suspects now. Matthew and Sally, I want to know where it was done, what it was done with, and who done it.
The room could have been...
Kitchen.
The kitchen, right? I'm going to take kitchen. Okay.
The kitchen. The weapon?
Was done with the scarf.
Scarf?
The
Okay,
scarf.
right.
Scarf.
Okay.
And it was done by...
Miss Scarlet.
Miss Scarlet. I told you Sally knew. She's got all that.
Okay, now just tell me why you've come to that conclusion.
Because with
Well, because one, she didn't really give a very good explanation of where she went to, and she can't really prove who she went upstairs with.
Excuse me, I have an alibi. I went with Mike, and that is the explanation.
But you could be lying.
Yeah, and anyway, your motives are terrible because not only had you lost all that money, but you were going to lose a lot more in that frock. Or out of it.
Okay, well, I think we can understand Matthew's thought processes. Right, Michaela and John, now I want to know where, what with, and who done it.
We're going to go for the study with the scarf by Colonel Mustard.
Why have you, how have you worked that out?
I don't think Colonel Mustard stayed with Miss Scarlett in the room. He came downstairs afterwards with her scarf and strangled him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you're saying to us it was done in the study, it was done with the scarf, and it was done by Colonel Mustard. I can tell you that not one single one of those is correct.
Great! Brilliant!
But that does mean that Colonel Mustard is exonerated. It does also mean that he must tell the truth from now on because he's innocent. Now, Sally and Matthew, you said it was done in the kitchen, you said it was done with a scarf, and you said it was done by Miss Scarlett. Now, I can tell you that 2 of those are wrong, but 1 of them is right. Surprisingly.
Oh, no.
Right, I don't know how you're getting along at home. It's all very confusing tonight, isn't it? Join us again in a couple of minutes with some more evidence on Cluedo. Welcome back to the second part of Cluedo. We're trying to unravel yet another mystery murder at Arlington Grange. Simon Charles, investment consultant, has finally ceased trading. Now, I don't know whether we got very far in the first half or not. We'd really worked out with Michaela and John, we'd worked out that it can't have been done in the study, it can't have been done with the scarf, and it wasn't done by Colonel Mustard. We know he's innocent because I told them that all 3 were wrong. And Sally and Matthew Kelly, you said it was done in the kitchen, you said it was done with the scarf, and you said it was done by Miss Scarlett, and I told you that 1 of those was correct. So that's where we stand at the moment. We're trying to find out where it was done, what it was done with, and who done it. Now, there's some more evidence arrived. Some more events at Arlington that day. We start in the kitchen, a confession to Professor Plum from Mrs. White.
Oh, dear. Look, he was talking to Mrs. Peacock about a plan he had. He said it was a surefire winner. Well, that started me thinking. I mean, why shouldn't I have a go? Make myself a little nest egg for my old age.
And you dabbled. Was it much?
It was my life savings, sir. All my life savings.
Never get involved in commerce, my dear.
But I got involved. Fortunately, there was a way out for me if I was short of cash.
Well, we apologise for the loss of Cluedo. We'll try and get back the programme as soon as we can. Well, we apologise for the loss of Cluedo. We're trying to get back to the programme as soon as we can for you. In the meantime, here's some more music. Well, as the mystery continues with Cluedo, we're still trying to get back to the programme for you. We're trying our very best. In the meantime, here's some music. I'm pleased to say we can now rejoin Cluedo.
Who else would lock up?
Oh,
There's only me.
Blanche, you're not always the last one, excuse me.
Under normal circumstances, I am.
Come on, you seem to be badgering Mrs. White now. What have you worked out? Where What with and who did it?
Yeah, definitely. The kitchen is the place of the murder. With, we reckon...
Poison.
Poison, thank you. And it's definitely Mrs. White.
Mrs. White?
Well, it's just that you had so much to lose because you overheard the business with the with Mrs. Peacock and the victim. So you had not only lost your life savings, but you were going to lose your home and your job as well. I rest my case.
It's very, very good, Matthew Kelly, but it's not correct.
What?
2 of them are correct and 1 of them's wrong.
2? Oh,
Michaela, John.
Right.
Another suspect.
Do you ask Mrs. White again?
Yeah.
Mrs. White. You know you had the steel sharpener in your hand. What did you do with it afterwards?
Well, I just put it back with the knives. I've got a sort of ceramic bowl thing, and I just put things like spoons with holes in, and all those things live in there.
Right. John, Michaela, where was it done? What was it done with?
Kitchen.
Pretty keen on this kitchen, yeah?
Yes, we're dead keen on the kitchen. And steel sharpener was the weapon.
And Mrs. White.
Just tell me why. Now, why... What's she collaborating? Why do you think that?
Well, we know the kitchen.
Yeah,
We've sort of sussed that out.
Process of elimination.
Mrs. White, she's given some
Just tell me why is it the steel sharpener?
Oh, why the steel sharpener?
Because she had access to it in
She
the
did,
kitchen.
yeah.
Why is it nice Mrs. White?
Well, because Mrs. White has given some very dodgy evidence, actually.
Also, she's lost all her savings. Every penny of it.
Yeah, she might lose the
motive.
house, as Matthew said earlier, you know,
Yeah.
so...
She found the body. There was only...
Yeah, she found the body. It all points to Mrs. White.
So we're wrong now.
Very, very clever stuff. I can tell you it was the kitchen, it was the steel, and it was Mrs. White.
Well, they're all alike, that sort, aren't they? Born with a silver spoon in their mouths. Think they can go on forever taking people for a ride. They're greedy and arrogant. And they're patronising. Oh, yes. We came into the kitchen to see me. Below stairs, they called it. Well, I told him that I'd invested my life savings in that scheme of his, and it was all right for him to give the others a chance to get their money back. But what about me? I'd lost everything. And you know what he said? He said he couldn't care less about a piddling little amount like that, and he just laughed. He laughed, and then he turned round and started walking out. That's when I did it. Because that piddling little amount was everything I had in the world. And I'd lost it all because of him. And all he could do was laugh. Well, he won't laugh again. I've seen to that.
So it was Mrs. White who murdered the investment consultant. Our apologies to the other 5, the innocent 5. You're all free to go. Only Mrs. White must remain for a very, very long time. Hope you followed it all at home. It was a great game tonight, actually. Our commiserations to Sally and Matthew. Congratulations to Michaela and John. And that's it. See you all next week for another murder mystery on Cluedo. Good night.
Well, we apologise for the loss of Cluedo earlier. This was due to technical problems beyond our control.